Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and well, I messed up. Yeah, I did two reels that, I got a call back on them and said they're not working the way they should. The first one is this Penn squitter without an anti-reverse. And then a couple of days later, Franks calls me and says, well, the one that I sent in on the 320 doesn't have the anti-reverse. So let's find out how I messed up. And more importantly, let's go figure out how to fix this thing and get it out there fishing again. So it's not unusual that I make mistakes from time to time. I never claim to be perfect, but it is unusual to get two of them back kind of close together. And most of the time, the failures that I get, well, they're secondary failures. I repaired the one piece and something else failed as a result of that. And my policy is always, look, just send it back to me. I'll repair it at my cost. You expected a reel that works, even if it is a secondary failure that was not on the horizon at the time that I repaired it. I'll accept the responsibility and do that. Well, we got two of them in. So let's take a look first at the 140. The 140 does have that single screw take apart, which I've done. The anti-reverse is under here, and we're going to see, did I just not mount the spring properly, or do we have a bad dog that maybe was an oversight on mine? And I do have the replacement dog and spring standing by just in case. There is a aftermarket manufacturer for those dogs now. The dogs themselves are no longer available as a replacement part from Penn, but there is a firm that did do aftermarkets because, well, of the popularity of the reel, and that the folks that own the reels, well, it is a failure point in the reel, and the folks that own the reels certainly want to keep on fishing with them. Well, in this case, it appears that, well, it just, for whatever reason, popped loose. So this is your original dog and spring. And you know what? I'm going to take the replacement spring that I bought. We'll compare it, but the dog appears to be correct. So we'll just take that replacement spring and the original dog. And the spring fits into a cavity. Goes in like that, and we'll just reassemble. So the message here is, you're going to make mistakes when you're working on fishing reels. Accept that. Accept that you're human. That's part of basic proposition there, right? And well, just own up to them, own them. Do your best to work around it, fix it, and get it back working again. All right, that's the way the spring should load. And I'm thinking maybe when I rotated the bridge, it knocked the dog out of track and pulled up the spring, whatever it may be. But regardless, something went amiss. And now it's time to just put it back together again. Get it out there fishing. All right, we just rotated the bridge to cover that sleeve. When we install the bridge screws, we'll give it a test. So, if you're in the business of reel repair, don't blame the customer, even if it is the customer's fault. This one's not the customer's fault. Obviously, the spring is popped out. It's not something else that's causing that. But don't blame the customer. Don't get into confrontation. You're never going to win, so why bother? Just own it. Make it right. Accept that, well, for whatever reason, the reel's not working and your customer expected the reel to work. Go fix it again. And like I said, I've had oddball things happen. I just accept it. In this case, I'm going to own both of these because, well, they should be working with anti-reverses. All right. One more of these, we'll give it a test. See how we did. Now this one, it's curious, and I had asked Mike, are we sure that we have the anti-reverse on? All right, and now we have it working. And because sometimes folks don't even realize that you have an override switch. And when you don't realize that you have the override switch, it might be in the off position, and that causes the issue. But in this case, I'm going to call this one Real Repair Guy Error. Put it back together again, get it back to Mike. And we'll take a look while we're at it, since we've got 2 failures in here, what I did wrong on the other one. So if you're working on a reel and you think you got it right, and then you test it and something's wrong, don't go crazy. Just recheck your work. Clearly, that's all we had to do here. Reset that piece. Now, I did put a new spring in there just because I'm not sure if the other spring was weak or what may have caused the problem to begin with. But just recheck your work. I get a lot of times I serviced my reel, and well, before I serviced my reel it was working, and now it's not. That's clearly an assembly issue where something went wrong in the process. But well, just be patient with yourself. Understand you will make the errors, and just get them fixed. All right, we're on. We have an anti-reverse. Throw that into free spool, cast, throw it into retrieve, lock it in. You have your anti-reverse. Let's use the anti-reverse override switch here. You can backpedal the reel. That's for fighting the fish without wearing the drags down. Put it back into gear. All right, we're set. So, Mike, sorry for the inconvenience. Let's move over to Frank's reel. Same issue, doesn't have an anti-reverse. In this case, this one does not have an anti-reverse override. I'm thinking I didn't hook the spring onto the post. It's one of those common issues that I have from time to time. I set the anti-reverse dog and then I forget to put the spring on. But I usually catch that in the test, so I don't know, maybe I was in a hurry one day. I guess we'll find out, right? All right, same idea here. We're going to take off the exterior pieces. In this case, I really don't even need to do that, because if the first issue is that I forgot to hook it on the post, then it's just sitting inside the case there waiting to be hooked, right? So we'll see. And I'm going to take this off, assuming maybe something is going on inside the main gear, and we'll solve for that. All right, those 3 pieces off. I'm just going to lay them there. There's 4 screws that hold this case on. Let's remove those. These are solid reels. I just got a reel in from my current projects. It's a 330, which is the bigger version of this reel in the bag project. So somebody took it apart, had some problems that they couldn't overcome, and asked me could I reassemble the reel for them. We'll do that. I'll make a video of it. I always encourage folks to try to service the reel yourself, and I always try to say that I'm here to help if you get into trouble. And I've been pretty successful at helping folks that have gotten off the path. And of course, some of the things I suggest, take the pictures, use the schematics, those kinds of things, they're kind of preventative, right? Get that stuff before you start, take a look, see what you're going to be in for. And a few of the times we get a little over anxious and we just want to jump into a project, and from time to time that's the issue. There you go. Well, I should have known myself. So I accept that as the problem. I didn't rehook the spring. Okay, that's generally an easy thing to do. Just grab a pick, pull it up and over. Drop it down. Now what I may have done, I may have set it like that and never pushed down on it to make sure that it was firmly seated in the back end. Now we have our anti-reverse. Mystery solved. So we're going to use this as a lesson. If you're in the reel repair business, or if you're just doing this yourself and you find out that something didn't work after you service the reel. The lesson here is patience. It's accept the ownership of it. Of course, if you're doing your own reel, there's nobody else to blame, but don't get in the blame game. It's never good, doesn't work. And even if you're right, you're wrong, right? So just accept the, own it, and just go restore it the way it should have been before you started. In this case, clearly, the spring was never hooked, or if I did hook it, I didn't push it down to set it properly. Shame on me. Well, that's a cost of doing business, and it's a cost that I don't ask my customers to incur. If they get a reel back that's not working, I don't do anything other than say, send it back to me and I'll make it right if I didn't make it right the first time. So there you go. So what did we learn? We learned that it happens. Be prepared for it to happen, particularly if you're in the servicing business. And do your best to restore the reel without causing your customer any more inconvenience. And hopefully with either Mike or Frank, I haven't inconvenienced them. From time to time, I do get messages in saying, hey, I'm going on a fishing trip. You know, let's pick today is in July. I'm going on a fishing trip July 18th, and it happens to be July 7th. And you go to work on the reel, get it back to them, and then they find out that the reel isn't working, and they were really counting on it for the fishing trip. And really all I can do in that case is say, I'm sorry, send it back to me, we'll fix it. Sorry that I inconvenienced you. Hopefully we didn't do that with this one. All right, so we replaced the spring on the 140. It may have been a weak spring in that dog that caused it to not work. We replaced the spring. In this one, clearly I didn't hook the spring up properly. We've reset that. Both of these reels are ready to go back out and go fishing. And with a sincere word of regret and apology. Well, I hope you've learned from that. I hope you've enjoyed the video. And, well, if you like it, please like it. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, and all the folks that are involved in keeping us safe day in and day out and out of harm's way. And I want to thank you for watching, for understanding, well, and for being a loyal channel viewer of Second Chance Tackle. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.